So you just talked about you remote viewing the flickering red and white was it UFO. And from your past remote viewing sessions, one of the most memorable sessions that you've done was on Roswell. And what's your take on your remote viewing session on Roswell?
Okay. You have to remember this is double blind. Well, it was for Courtney Brown. It was blind. He goes, "We're working Project 12. Do the first target in Project 12." That's all he tells me. Okay, we do the first target in Project 12. Set up my desk. Meditate 15 minutes. Where am I? Well, I'm working this target. This is target A, Project 12. And I was on a dirt road, like an unpaved road, out in not mountains, but kind of like those mountains. It's all, but drier.
Right.
Drier mountains, dusty, dry. A plain off to the side, like not quite desert, but just out in the middle of nowhere. And it was very experiential. I could smell juniper and sage. I knew they were like lizards there. And
so you can actually smell things when you
well, the idea of it's like it evoked memory. I used to live in southern Utah. I go, this is like southern Utah.
I see.
And so I'm going, why did they send me here? This is like out in the middle of nowhere. And then I realized, is this New Mexico? And then I looked and I saw a disc. I'm trying to remember. It was in a building, and there were people looking at it going, what the hell? You know, that kind of thing. And it was, I think, damaged.
Damaged disc.
Yeah. God, that was so many years ago. You know which one is fresher in my mind was the Bob Lazar one, which is a similar thing.
Well, I was going to ask you.
So Roswell, I think that was one where I got the idea of navigation, how these people navigated this thing. And they did it by space and time. Like you had to have coordinates of you're going in 3D space, but you also have to be at the right time, because if you don't get the right time, you're going to be, your navigation is way off. And that was a concept that is above my understanding of physics and mathematics and trigonometry. But I knew there was, like, you had to know a lot about trigonometry to know about it. Like, how are you going to get from here to there at the right date? And so it was something, they had something very complex on board the thing that could put coordinates of latitude, longitude, dimension, and time. Like, and all that, and you get there.
Interesting.
So, like, why am I thinking thoughts like, because I don't know what the target is. I go, why am I thinking this thought? And you're trained to just put it down. And then he told me it was Roswell. I went, oh, interesting. The Bob Lazar one was, they, God, I do these, I'm remembering this. It's almost kind of like, okay, I'm going back and reliving this. There was a crane, an old crane. They had this thing lifted up on it, and somebody was really mad, like an officer came in and he was just swearing, like, who allowed them in there? They're not supposed to be here.
I see.
The crane operator, he's not supposed to see that. This is a security nightmare, and somebody's going to go to the brig for this. And I said, somebody's name is Dennis. I wrote the name Dennis.
Okay, actually, I identify their names as well.
That's I got the name Dennis came. There's somebody named Dennis. Bob Lazar, his code name his was Dennis.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, when Daz was giving us the feedback on that, I went, I think I said Dennis. And I was looking back, I couldn't find it, and I went through all the video, and finally I was at the whiteboard and I said, that's Dennis. This guy he's got the clearance, he's looking into this, and they were trying to figure out the propulsion system in the Bob Lazar one. They were afraid of it. That's what I got like. Is this on or off? Is this going to kill us? Is this going to radiate us? It's like, what if we hit the wrong switch and it evaporates the universe or something? They were afraid of it.
Interesting. Bob Lazar, as viewers might know, he's a scientist who supposedly claimed to have researched UFO at a area called S4 near Area 51. He also have claimed to see.
Okay, I'll give you my take on the Lazar story. From the remote, we had I think 4 or 5. 4 of us. I did it. Derek did it. Edward did it. Naeem did it. And the 4 of us all got corroborating data, double blind. So we're given a target ID like J8W3, and we don't know who it's from. We don't look at each other's work. I'm in Hawaii, Edward's in Texas, Daz is in England, and Naeem is in Canada, and we all work, and we have a dedicated spot on our website. It's a private access. Like I can't access Daz's, so I upload mine, and only the administrators can see it. So we didn't see each other's work, but we all confirmed that Bob Lazar was working somewhere out in the desert in a secret place in a mountain that involved discs and science and technology. So I believe the Lazar story. Yeah.
The government these days they coined the term non-human intelligence for aliens. They use that term a lot. Have you seen non-human intelligence in one of your remote viewing sessions?
Yes.
Have you? Can you share that?
This is a great story. So one night, I'm in class with him, and he gives us a target. So doing my little thing. See, there's a facility. It's got big walls. It's got antennas. It's got satellite dishes. There's a lot of security around it. A lot of radio frequency. A lot of messages coming and going. And it's a secure facility, like a government facility. Okay, so I'm working. I look, and I see, wow, I see this curving thing, and I go, that's the Earth. I go, I'm in space. That's a good view. I go, yeah, that. I see the atmosphere. So for just 2 seconds, this hazy view of that's the curvature of the planet. So I'm looking in this structure, in a place, and that's on a screen. And I look. What you do is you sketch something, then you set yourself, and you look again, and you get this hazy image. I get this image of bug-eyed gray. I'm thinking, I'm making this up. We don't do UFOs at Hawaii Remote Viewer Skill, but I'm trained to whatever I see I put down. So I draw this. I look again, and the idea comes to me. It's like, this is not your business. That's a good trick, buddy, but move along. And so I drew that. I said, there's some communication with this alien.
To you? Well, you see,
the target involved that, but the alien kind of sensed me and said, rebuffed me, to get away, go away.
Interesting.
So I'm in class and I'm going, man. So I draw this out and I write it out. I hand it in, and Glenn goes, see, I give you interesting targets once in a while.
So
I go, what was this target? And he goes, there's this guy that wrote a book named Dan Sherman, Above Black. You ever heard of that? He claims that he worked for the NSA, and that he was in the Air Force, and then he worked for the NSA, and they trained him in a secret program to telepathically communicate with aliens, so that when a time came when everything fell apart on Earth and communications were down, he would be able to communicate with aliens.
Interesting.
So he wrote a book about that. So that was the target that Glenn gave us. Okay.
Speaking of aliens, legend remote viewers such as Pat Price, Joe McMoneagle, they've said,
Two of the best, by the
Right,
way,
two of the
Pat
best.
Price and Joe McMoneagle.
right, they have said they've seen alien bases here on Earth, somewhere here on Earth. What's your take on that?
English Swan too.
English one too.
Yeah.
Do you have any
I've
other
seen
opinions?
some of their work. I believe it.
Mhm.
Joe McMoneagle is very, very good. Pat Price was really, really good. I have, other than Area 51, I haven't been tasked with, so I've personally never seen that. I believe them, but I've never had any experience as a remote viewer doing that.
Do you think there are any specific reasons as to why Glenn has never really tasked you with many UFOs or alien
Yeah.
subjects? Was there a reason that he?
Two reasons in my mind. One is remote viewing needs to stand on its own, and there's so much, because there was we'll call it a psychological warfare against ufology.
Right.
It was made to evoke laughter, like, oh, I'm studying UFOs, haha, you're crazy, haha, you're, and they made it, they marginalized anyone who looks at UFOs.
Right. Years of stigmatization. Right.
So and remote viewers who are not very good want to remote view aliens because who can tell them they're wrong
Right.
at this point? So Glenn wanted to keep the ridicule factor away, the ha-ha factor. He wanted remote viewing to stay on its own. But I also think, I'm going out on a limb here.
Okay.
This is just my opinion. I think Glenn knows more about UFOs than he can tell,
Right.
and still has a non-disclosure agreement. There are certain things I've asked him, and he will just say, the baseball playoffs are starting, who do you think's going to win? He'll just change the subject.
Okay.
Just flat out change the subject.
Interesting.
He's very careful. I think there are people with non-disclosure agreements that they're still bound by secrecy.
Okay.
And I think Glenn might be in that category. Glenn, if you're watching this, sorry, man.
Understandable. So that one event where you saw, gray-looking alien, you just said that if.
Oh. Yeah, well, that was the one at the Target I worked with Glenn. I saw that on the craft. When I did Area 51 for Courtney, I was in a hallway. Somebody's walking down a hallway, and this, 8-foot tall, smelly reptilian goes, and I go,
Interesting.
did I just see that? Was that, and it was like, yeah, so, but it's it's just fleeting, I think that was a reptilian. And I don't know what the target is when I'm doing it.
Right.
God, it's a good guess if it's Courtney Brown that's going to be. But I think I can remember drawing that. I drew a hallway with an angle, and there was this 8-foot tall thing, and then somebody walking by it, just like I saw it, and it's just like 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds. Like, what was that?
Interesting.
And the irritating thing about remote viewing to me is I'll get that. Glenn can replay it. He can just he can just loop it. He's learned he can look at it again and see more and more. I get it. and I can't go back to it.
Okay. It's just like a fleeting thought in that instant, and you can't go back to
I had 2 cameras going. You got to understand, I'm totally blind to this. I don't know what this is, and I turn in a paper session, and Courtney goes, take that to whiteboard. And so in my little house, you know, I set up a whiteboard, and I set up lights and camera and microphone. I test the mic, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I get my little markers, you know, dry board markers, and I begin the session, and I kind of recreate my paper session. So I'm drawing and describing, and at one point in that session, there was somebody in the room with me, and I think it's on the video where I'm talking, and I'm suddenly somewhere else, and I'm like, oh wait, I'm on camera, and then there's this like big praying mantis that's a female, and like really nice air about her, and I'm going, what do I need to know about you? And both my cameras went ding ding, and they both shut off. Both my cameras shut off. They shut themselves simultaneously.
Interesting.
Just my cameras just stopped, and
In that moment.
yeah.
So it was as if this mantis being was communicating with you at that moment.
You know, I don't. I think maybe. That's. I don't want to make too many wild claims here, but that was my experience. Like I'm working this target for Courtney, and it was like, yeah, it's on the video.
Interesting.
I try to not give this too much weight because every remote viewing is a combination of good data, bad data, and contamination. So some of what you put down is just no good. It's wrong. Some of it's very good. And some of it is colored by your own experiences and your own expectations and your own interpretation. So it's a soup of good data, bad data, and contamination.